Narayana. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. The ignoble find faults in those who are noble. Those who are a mix of ignobility and nobility, they recognize both ignobility and nobility. Those who are noble only find nobility. And the highest personality, the most pure mind, is the one, when they find any nobility, they exaggerate it. They make that grand. So finding faults in the noble, finding both, finding only nobility, and magnifying nobility. These are gauges of how sattvic, how disciplined a person is. Sharing it more simply, a worldly person judges themselves in an elevated way. They feel that they are superior and all else are inferior. A worldly person gets lost in judgment. Srimad Bhagavatam is like a personality assessment. It's a personality test. There's so many types of personalities. And these personalities are not to be objectified, but these personalities are depicted for us to see if these characters live inside of us. Characters like Daksha. Daksha judged himself high and everyone else low. Daksha lives inside of me. Sati Devi, she's confused. Do I be more logical? Do I be more trusting? We're like that too. Is science more true? Is religion more true? So we internalize that. As we continue with our course, to ensure that you're vigilant about this personality assessment. Janmadhyasya yatonvayadi tarataschaarteshva bhignaswarat tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi dharma projita ketavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudya Tetra Kritibihi Shushrushrubis Tatchanat. When dharma, in the language of Srimad Bhagavatam, or yajna, is engaged in with no intention or the wrong intention, then that dharma and yajna leads to nowhere, leads to nothing. And this is what Daksha was doing. He was engaged in dharma yajna, but his intention was not Bhagwan. His intention was his own possessions, his own positions. And this led to his destruction and the destruction of a lot. Whereas Bhagavan Shiva has followed dharma, has reached Brahman. What our Shastras say is that for someone who's enlightened, for someone who's reached moksha, then dharma and even the injunctions of the Veda do not apply. It's no different than if you reach your destination, do speed limits apply to you then? Do you need gas in your car then? You don't. So Daksha feels he's the equivalent of Bhagavan Shiva when he's not. Bhagavan Shiva is free. He doesn't have to stand up or sit down for anyone. He doesn't have to give because he's not getting. This focus on dharma is ended where Bhagavan Shiva is described as the Antaha of Antaka. And I really like this terminology. You know who Antaka is? Death. And Antaha is the death to death. That's who Bhagavan Shiva is. He is the Antaha, he's the end of death. When we have the right intention and we follow dharma, we will become courageous. We will become fearless. We will feel Shiva. And the fourth skanda, the next purushartha that is focused on is naturally artha. And the personality that's focused in artha is our Dhruva. So some insights into this to complete the whole section on Dhruva. Dhruva's stepmother says, you have to worship Bhagwan to be born in my womb. And Dhruva's mother agrees. She says, you were born in my womb, and that's your poor fortune that you do have to worship Bhagwan. That guidance from your stepmother is right. So Dhruva leaves. He leaves the kingdom, and as he's going into the jungle, who meets him there? Rishi Narada. Rishi Narada is there. And Rishi Narada tries to dissuade Dhruva from leaving the kingdom and dissuading him from trying to find God. He says, you can do this later in your life. Don't we say that to ourselves and to others? You're too young to come here. Are you sad? Is that why you're here? So Rishi Narada says this to Dhruva, and Dhruva's 5 years old. If you think of our grade 1 students, they're typically 5 years old. And Dhruva's so vigilant, he says, you're telling me that I can't find God, but who sent you? Correct? Wasn't it Bhagwan that sent Rishi Narada? So he said, I know Bhagwan sent you, so I know I will find Bhagwan. So optimistic. I love these details. And then I shared with you how Dhruva went through intense Jaya and Vijaya, controlling his body and his mind. He went from eating fruits to eating grass to drinking water to breathing to not breathing to standing on one foot, and finally in the 6th month he stood on one toe. His entire being was concentrated on his one toe. And Bhagavan Narayana wanted to see him. Often we interpret that Dhruva wanted to see Bhagavan Narayana, but it was actually Bhagavan Narayana that wanted to see his son, his Dhruva. So Bhagavan Narayana manifests before Dhruva. He gives him darshan to Dhruva, and Dhruva gets darshan of Bhagavan. Now, while this is happening, if we go back to the kingdom, Dhruva's father, his name is Uttanapada, he feels bad. He says, I become so attached to my wife that I neglected my son. And there's a lot of depth to the 2 wives of Uttanapada. One of his wives is Suruchi. She symbolizes likes. And his other wife is Suniti. She symbolizes value. Now he's supposed to be the king. He's supposed to be responsible. But what is he focused on? What he likes. And he's neglecting what is valuable. But he finally realizes his mistake and he shifts to focusing on what he values and not just what he likes. What we all like is dessert, but what is valuable is vegetables. Yes, if you only eat dessert, how will you be able to sleep? You'll be so imbalanced. He realizes that. When Bhagavan Narayana manifests for Dhruva, Dhruva is speechless. So Bhagavan Narayana, he takes out his conch and he touches Dhruva's cheek. And the symbolism behind this is that conch is actually the Veda. For all of you who have been to our Jagadishwara Mandir in Bharat, in Mumbai, we blow the 3 conches 3 times to call all of the people that stop doing what you're doing and focus on Bhagavan Shiva. That call is the Veda. So right now in this ashram, Bhagavan Krishna is not blowing the conch, but these teachings are the sound of that conch for us to focus on Dharma, to focus on Bhagavan. Eventually, Dhruva returns back to the kingdom and he becomes the Raja, and he is the best king. He's such an exceptional king that Bhagavan Narayana actually creates a specific loka for him to retire into. You know, like you get a severance package. So this is like a special severance package that was created just for Dhruva. It was called Dhruva Loka. Dhruva Loka is not listed in the 14 lokas, but this was special, just made for him. Now, before he was going to leave Earth, where we're living, to go to Dhruva Loka, Yama shows up. Yama Raja shows up and says, hey, you can't just leave this world without recognizing me. I'm the Antaka. I'm the person at that Easy Pass booth. I lift the gate up, I put that gate down. So Dhruva is listening to him and totally has no fear of death. So what he does is he steps on Yama's head to get into that cart to take him to Dhruva Loka. Yama's head is just treated as a step. Really lovely details. Now the final thought on Dhruva. The word Dhruva, the base of this is Dhr, D-H-R, which means to be steady, which means to hold on. When one has such fortitude in one's life, one will not want anything other than peace, will not want anything other than God. Dhruva began his relationship with God as a artharthi. For all of those who have studied Bhagavad Gita, artharthi is someone who wants prosperity. With Deepavali, it's someone who wants labha, not shubha, correct? But he's so steady, he's holding on so intensely that internally he feels that labha is useless, and he shifts to shubha. He goes from artharthi to a jnani. A jnani is not someone who wants to know God, it is someone who knows God. So this whole portion of Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to show us artha is anartha. All of the possessions in our lives are worthless without the presence of God, without being peaceful. So dharma is checked off. There's a narration with Daksha. Artha is checked off. There's a narration with Dhruva. What's coming next? Kama. And the main personality when we assess Kama, when we explore this, is Raja Prithu. Raja Prithu. The word Prithu sounds like Prithvi. Prithvi is this earth. So I'll share some details with you. I am on the 4th skanda still. I'm on the 13th adhyaya on shloka 21. 4:13:21. Tasya shilanide sadhu doho brahmanyasya mahatmanaha rajnya katam abhudushta prajayad vyamanayayau. Rishi Vidura, it says Vidura Uvacha. Rishi Vidura is asking whom? Rishi Maitreya. And this dialogue, the more immediate dialogue, is Raja Parikshita is asking whom? Rishi Shuka. Don't lose track of the dialogues. And more immediate is us, correct? We're asking each other. So Rishi Vidura asks Rishi Maitreya, how is it possible that from such a great king, that is Raja Anga, that the worst king was born, and his name is Raja Vena? From the best, how was the worst born? This Raja Vena was so dushta that Raja Anga actually, he left his kingdom because he didn't want to be with his son. So how is this all possible? This is how this line is bringing us to post-Dhruva. There's a lot of details that lead up to this verse narrating Dhruva's lineage. And what I'm highlighting here is, in Dhruva's lineage, there was a king. His name is Raja Anga. And his wife's name was Rani Sunita. And their son was Vena. And there's lots of details about how cruel Vena was. And I don't even like saying it, but details like he would find kids and throw them into wells. He would strangle people just to test his might. And since he was the Raja, he was essentially above the law. That's adbhuta dushta. Like, that's shocking. How is it even possible that someone would act like that? His father couldn't handle this anymore, so he escaped. Some of us feel like that, right? With our trying days. But his father acted on it. He escaped. And Rajavena, he became the king. He was such a poor ruler that the rishis had to put an end to this. They impeached him. But this impeachment was through capital punishment, that Rajavena was killed. Now, without a Raja, the country broke into anarchy. Just like if there's no prime minister, then how does the country run? It's like having a minority government then, correct? So there was anarchy. All of the people who ruled the underworld, they brought that to the regular world. So what the rishis did was they churned Vena's arm. And from Vena's arm came two beings, and their names are Prithu and Archi. Prithu is an incarnation of Bhagavan Vishnu, and Archi is an incarnation of Bhagavati Lakshmi. Raja Prithu is the 10th incarnation in our list. So we're moving quite well. We've now been with 10 incarnations. I was thinking lots about this word churn. You know, you can churn butter. You can churn your mind. How do you churn your arm? You know, I can spin it like this or spin it like this, but that's just called rotating, right? Churning here is like cloning, correct? Cloning is where you take cells, you take DNA, and you create another entity. Right now, what's happening in science is they're trying to create an alternative meat form that comes from an original meat form. So as an example, if there's a pig and they take cells from that pig, they take DNA from that pig and create another one, they are trying to create this, but there would be way less environmental impact because this is sort of a pig and sort of not a pig. So a lot of ethical discussion happening around that. But I feel this is a really cool example of cloning, of taking original cells and creating a new entity. So Raja Prithu and Devi Archie. Now let's think less about the science, but the Vedanta behind all of this. In Dhruva's lineage was born Vena. I just described so much about how awesome Dhruva is and how terrible Vena is. How is it possible? You all know about people who are physically totally healthy, but will have a heart attack or will have a stroke. How? When they're in the best health and all of a sudden the worst is coming. The same goes in families. You have families with multiple cousins, multiple siblings, and some are so noble and so generous, and some are so ignoble and so conjuice. Yes. What this teaches us is to appreciate nature. Nurture does have a part in our lives, but when you appreciate nature, that every one of us has come with our own nature, we become more accepting. And a way that you know someone is accepting, a way you know if you're accepting, is if you're more patient. Today's Deepavali. How many of you feel from Deepavali in 2018, which I believe was November 7th, today's October 27th, how many of you have become more patient over the last year, by show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Less than 50% of us have become more patient, which shows a lack of acceptance, correct? Which shows, and here's the real important, an expression of ego is to be controlling. An expression of egolessness is to be accepting. We like to control, correct? And we like to control because we feel we are in control. In other words, nurture is stronger than nature. But thus far in this episode, we see from Dhruva comes Vena. From Vena comes Prithu. Nature is more powerful. Okay, let's forget about Vena and explore more about Raja Prithu. I'm on 4th Skanda, the 19th Adhyaya, the 39th Shloka. 4:19:39. Itham saloka guruna samadishto vishampati tatacha kritva vatsalyam maghona picha sandhade. This is Maitreya Uvacha. Rishi Maitreya says to Rishi Vidura, there the Loka Guru came. The Loka Guru is Bhagavan Brahma. And he advises Raja Prithu to make peace with Indra. Raja Prithu, having made peace with Indra, he feels Bhagavan's presence. Okay, so now, what has led up to this? Raja Prithu is, some say he's the first king ever. And if that's too difficult for us to appreciate because Dhruva was there, etc., he is the first contemporary king. He actually created in Bharata Varsha or Bharata Varta regions based on people's lifestyles. You know, in America particularly, if a group of Indians live in a neighborhood, they call that Gandhi Nagar, correct? Because all of those people have an inclination towards, they know Gandhiji. Or in another area, all of these people are hotel owners. All of these people go to the same school, like many of our students here. So Raja Prithu created regions where people's lifestyles matched. And what's so cool about that is synergy then, right? It's like a retirement community. If you have to cook, we all get to eat then. Then tomorrow I cook. It's like prasad here. Raja Prithu was also big on having icons of God everywhere. Now you see that in Bharat, correct? Every corner there's a small mandir. It could be the pan shop has a mandir, or it's just on the road. So he was one to do that. We see that in North America. There's churches on every corner, correct? That the state and religion were not separate. They were integrated into one. So Raja Prithu is the one who originated all of this. As he was running his kingdom, he was very much in tune with the earth, with the environment. And he was trying to find Bhudevi. And as he was wandering around, he saw a Devi who transformed into a cow and started running away from him. And he questioned this because he's a protector, not a harmer. So he chased after this cow and had a dialogue with her saying, "Who are you? Why are you running away?" And she goes on to narrate that I am Bhudevi and I'm running away because you're related to Raja Vena. That's why I'm running away. And Raja Prithu has a really lovely dialogue with her saying, "I'm not Vena. Come back." When Raja Vena was there, she withdrew all of her nourishment deep inside of her. Plants would not grow. There was a lot of natural disasters. But when she felt Raja Prithu was treating her like a daughter, Prithu, Prithvi, yes, I commented on that, all of her nourishment came back. There was a lot of greenery, natural disasters ended. It makes us think that there must be a Raja Vena amongst us right now based on how the earth is, no? Correct? I'm not saying who that is. You all know, you all know who that is. When Bhudevi started releasing all of her potency, Raja Prithu started engaging in more yajnas. They're called Ashwamedha yajnas. And the point of a yajna is to create and distribute resources. I often think about when the automotive industry was being damaged in the US, that the government offered a bailout, correct? They gave GM, as an example, tons of money, and GM did well and repaid, I think, some or all of that money. I don't know those details, but you see, that's a yajna, isn't it? You're helping someone by create resources, and what do? They distribute that. It's like microfinancing, isn't it? We all lend each other 100 rupees. We create a credit union, and what do we do with the profits? We reinvest it into the community. So many cool details about political science. So he started engaging in these yajnas to encourage more of this sharing of resources. And who was watching him do this? Indra. He saw how awesome Raja Prithu was and started to feel jealous. And what does jealousy lead to? I've been sharing with you insecurity, but in Bhagavatam it is fear. So Indra started stealing the horse in this yajna. And Raja Prithu had completed 99 yajnas, and that 100th would have made him technically more powerful than Indra, but Indra kept on stealing that horse. And now Raja Prithu's mad. He's about to fight Indra, and that's when Bhagavan Brahma comes and says, make peace with Indra, he's useless. He's always jealous, he's always afraid. What difference does it make if you've completed 99 yajnas or 100 yajnas? Now, I put myself in this position. I think so many of us would want that 100th, title to our name. I've been to this many countries, or I have this much of money, or this many people follow me, right? We want that next level. But Raja Prithu says, you're right. Why am I engaging in this discussion and this fight with someone who's always going to be jealous and afraid? It really shows what kind of person they are. I shouldn't cause more harm. And when he submitted to Lord Brahma's message, who appeared there then? Bhagwan Vishnu. Bhagwan Vishnu appreciated Raja Prithu's large-heartedness so much that though he didn't complete the 99th yajna, really Bhagwan being there shows that really he didn't complete the 100th yajna, but the fact that Bhagwan came shows that he did complete that 100th yajna in a much more meaningful way. He felt that completeness. Closing this thought on why this is kama. Kama in English means pleasure, yes? Earlier on in Bhagavatam, Dhruva says, pleasure is available in hell. You can find pleasure in Naraka also. So all of the people who are living for pleasure, it seems like a big waste, no? That you can have that even in hell. Here on earth, you can find peace. And that's what you should be doing. Kama is not pleasure. Kama is peace. And Raja Prithu's a fine icon of that. And he stopped fighting. He felt that peace within himself. He saw that peace outside of himself in the form of Bhagwan Narayana. Bolo Raja Prithu ki Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Narayana. Your discussion subject is, how do you develop tirelessness? How do you develop tirelessness? We'll connect at 11:50. Enjoy. All right, we'll gather around. I'll quickly share. Ashaji has shared that if you're devoted towards something, you will get involved and work tirelessly. Certainly. So for money, right, Ashaji? That's why we work 100-hour weeks. Fairfield, aspire for a higher goal. Definitely, but what is your higher goal? We all keep sharing that we're living for Bhagwan, but we actually just live for our family, isn't it? That's why there's so much attachment and the negativity that comes with that. Portland, be a mother. Everyone else, you're lost. The implication is right. I see Vyasa Shuka woke up 3 times today and Sheila was still up and ready to come to the ashram. Correct? If I woke her up three times at night, there's no way she would be patient, peaceful, etc. So she's tireless because that's her altar. Fairfield, stay focused on the goal. Definitely, there's so much of comparison or competition. We forget why we're even doing what we're doing, right? Stanford, be engaged and motivated by purpose. Purpose pulls performance. The lower the purpose, lower the performance. It's like, if there's a short on-ramp, you slam that pedal down, correct? That purpose is you're going to get wiped off that road if you don't get onto that highway. But if there's a long on-ramp, you leisurely take your time with the gas, correct? It doesn't pull the best out of your car. Albany, feel that one is the tool for God's work. Yes, that is a lovely way to live. That there is a director and I am a actor. And you act your best. Cleveland, Physical tirelessness comes, and they've given a whole discourse, but essentially following routine. And that is a good point. You sleep at the same time every day, you wake up at the same time every day, your body will just do what you tell it to. And mentally, it's to remove the focus from oneself. The ego is really the original source of being tired. When you do things for yourself, the best in you never comes out. Okay, Cleveland, do you have a question? Yes, I've unmuted you. How are you? Shivali, go ahead. Can't hear you, Shivali. You keep playing, okay? No, I think it's your mic. You have all of the IT people, but Cleveland, how do you know they have all of these IT people? Anyone else have any questions? Okay, you keep playing, Shivali. I'll go to Portland. Yes, Seema, go.
Hari Om Vivekji, happy Diwali.
To you as well.
I just want to know how to handle attachments, the parents when you feel. So what we should thinking about that because it comes back and then that is really, really tough.
Yes. So Seemaji's question is, how do you reconcile attachment? You think that you're not attached, and then it just comes back again and again and again. So the first is, politely, is if you're born again, make sure you go to the Gurukula when you're 6, okay, or 5. Dhruva setting an example. So that's a preventative measure, so you don't get attached in the first place. But you know you're not going to be born again, correct, Seemaji? You're clear about that? Okay. So in this lifetime is to appreciate change. The more you appreciate change, the less you will attach yourself to that which is changing, correct? It's no different than, would any of you open up a vape shop today? You wouldn't open up a vape shop because you know vaping keeps getting outlawed, getting banned. There's so many regulations. It's changing so much, so you don't invest in vaping, I think. So now the same goes with people. That, your son lived in your house, now he's in university, maybe one day he'll get married and you're gonna cry. Didn't you want him to get married? Correct? See the point is to appreciate that all is changing, and then attachment is less logical. Secondly is, if you bring Bhagavan into the equation, then really all of us we're possessed by Bhagavan, so we don't become possessive. A servant cannot make demands, correct? A servant is someone to whom demands are made. So if I know that I'm possessed by Bhagavan, then who am I to be possessive? All of this is Bhagavan's then. Okay? Keep trying, Seemaji. You'll build that momentum. Shivali, did you get your mic to work, or do you want to type it out? Or you figured it out already? Okay, you can type it out if you want. Dhruv, you got it? Okay, you're unmuted. Oh, it's been typed out. No, I don't see it. Okay, if you get it to work, that's fine. You've now had 3 discussion subjects, and I'm going to debrief on all of them. Your first discussion subject from last week was, why are we jealous of the evolved? Do you remember that discussion subject? Does this not apply to you? Are you not jealous of the evolved? Or you are jealous of those who are evolved? Or people are jealous of you? Why we tend to be jealous of the evolved, why Daksha is jealous of Bhagavan Shiva, is because for the typical person who's extrovert, it's too hard to change themselves. An extrovert person wants to change others, but does not want to change themselves. So they're jealous of those who are changing themselves because it's too hard for them. So they just try to pull that person down to their level. Your second discussion subject was, how do we not react to family? In the dialogue between Bhagavan Shiva and Devi Sati, Bhagavan Shiva tells Devi Sati, it hurts less to be pierced by the arrows of an enemy than it is by the taunts of your own family. True? If an enemy shoots an arrow at you, that hurts less than if your family taunts you. And the reason for that is if an enemy shoots an arrow at you, and that's a weird example for us to think about, but it's typically unknown, correct? If someone stranger comes into this ashram and says, you're such an idiot, you don't know that person has no reference or relevance, you kind of laugh it off, right? In the moment you may feel heated, but it's easy to laugh off. But if your significant other comes here and says, you're an idiot, right? That it's a known entity. We feel that there's some truth to that, even if it's not truthful. So that's why it hurts us more, okay? So really the implication is treat your family like strangers. Now, how do you develop tirelessness? Here's my debrief on this. Don't give yourself the alternative to be tired. You think if you give your mind the option to snooze, it's not going to take it. Of course it's going to take it. If you give yourself the option to eat a second cupcake, or now Halloween's coming, right? You're taking your kids' candy for their security, correct? For their safety. You don't think you're going to eat any of it. Don't give yourself that alternative. Then the mind can't speak, correct? You put your hand over the mind's mouth, it can't complain then, it can't criticize. Your raw from last week was to be a cop. How many of you cleaned, organized, and planned any part of your home? Wow, Niagara, looking good. Okay. Why I asked you to be a cop is, if you went to a hotel room and there was a diaper in the bed, or a Band-Aid, or something, you wouldn't sleep in that bed, correct? You would call, you'd ask for a free room. Now, if my home is not clean, not organized, not planned, will Bhagavan Rama come and stay there then? He may come and look around and say, I'm going to his house instead. It's cleaner, more organized, more planned. So now, as we celebrate Deepavali, it's very easy to say, joyous Deepavali. But we don't want Bhagavan Rama to visit. We want him to stay. You start with your outside world, it will start to become your inside world. Here's your raw for the upcoming week. I want you to write the 4 most profound questions that have ever existed in humanity. So you are the original philosopher. What are the 4 most profound questions that will ever exist in history? Okay? And why I'm sharing this is, now here's a couple of administrative points. Number 1 is Sunday, November 3rd, we are going to be releasing Traditions. Our cookbook is complete. Many of you have donated to make this possible. So this will be released next week at 9 a.m. Eastern time. There's posters of this everywhere. You can go to Vichara Gurukula and there's a Zoom code. So join in the celebration, and there's only 250 copies. So if you want them, then you should email Vichara Gurukula and claim that. They're $20, but if the demand is more, we'll increase the price, okay? And the second point is next week, I will be speaking on Kena Upanishad, the 4th chapter. I'm going to start my discourse at 10:30 a.m. because there'll be lots of other people there too. If any of you as a bonus want to join in at 10:30, you can. And at 11 o'clock, you'll all be together anyways. So we will be focusing on Kena Upanishad, which is so much about profound questions. It's so much about the power of self-development. Okay? Yatin, please copy Shivali's question and give it to me next week then. Okay? Shanti, 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 Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om.